Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it took a long time for me to start thinking about doing a quote-unquote review on Iron Harvest, and the reason is, this game is in early access. I really kind of believe the game needs more or less a little bit more time, I would say, in development. And to be honest, I don't even think the campaign is finished. Without going too much into spoilers, because there will be a very big spoiler section in. The game kind of pulls a Halo 2 on you. But well, first I want to talk a little bit about gameplay. First things first, I, more or less played this game as intended, maybe? As I played this game only on single player. Meaning only the single player campaign, and well, once or twice I did a little bit of a skirmish. So what I have to say is, the game does seem to be more or less balanced. But hold that thought, because I don't think that is a quote-unquote good thing, especially on the single-player campaign. Because during my entire playtime, I didn't ever thought that I needed to change the way that I play, even being on unit composition. So, talking about infantry, everyone got the same infantry, except for the default infantry and the exoskeleton infantry. For example, for Saxonia, you got the basic infantry using SMGs. For Roosevelt, you got shotguns and bolt actions for Polania. In the case of the exoskeleton, you got mortars and a melee weapon for Saxonia, while you have knives for Roosevelt and, last but not least, cannons for Polania. And all the rest are the same. You have your engineers equipped with pistols and the guys who can build stuff. Grenadiers, they have the default weapon plus grenades. They have the ability to throw grenade. You have anti-armor gunners, they have a anti-armor weapon. Flamethrowers, flamethrowers have machine guns and medics. And you have the more heavy weapons like mortar, anti-tank, and the heavy machine gun, the mounted machine gun. And in case of the infantry, that's it. There's not many flower about it. And funnily enough, even if you kill enemy default infantry, for example, you kill a Saxonian SMG trooper, if you go and try to grab it, the weapon, you're gonna transform your unit in the default unit for your faction, not in your faction plus the SMG. So yeah, that's a bit of an interesting thing. Not my favorite, but yeah. Every unit has this. When they die, they drop their weapon. Every infantry has that. But even so, it does feel a little bit of a meh. Except for the exoskeletons. They don't drop their own exoskeleton, they just die. When it comes to the mechs, it's a little bit different. They come in their own factional flavors, but the only main difference comes into Roosevelt's artillery. While both Saxonia and Polania have their artillery on tier 2, Roosevelt lowered their artillery to a tier 1 mech. But everyone gets the same anti-infantry mech, the only difference being what weapon they use. For example, Saxonia use a heavy machine gun, while Polania use twin machine guns, and Roosevelt decide to go with flamethrowers. They also have the anti-armor, and that is it for tier 1. Tier 2, they get the the anti-heavy armor, their quote-unquote super heavy weapons, and their quote-unquote special gimmick mech. For Roosevelt, a melee mech. For Polania, they have the bunker bot and a bunker mech, sorry, with a mortar. And for Saxonia, you have the little thing who throws wheels with explosives. The quote unquote Goliath factory. And that's that. Now, in presentation, the Macs look fucking great. But interesting enough, it's all too balanced. And that is amazing for multiplayer. Let me tell you, probably. I don't know. I'm not playing this multiplayer. But I think this is a very quote unquote good way to play this multiplayer. All units are balanced. You just choose the flavor faction and you like to play with and go nuts. But in a single player campaign standpoint, it's kind of disappointing. And I'm not gonna lie, during the campaign, every time I was hoping for the unit moment. The moment then the game would throw a unit, then it will not be on skirmish, there will not be on anyone else, except from when mothers try to shove it in. But it would be like the unit. And that moment never really happened. The close to that then you can kinda say is heroes. Heroes are a little bit different of each other and between factions, but it comes to a wild card being the Cavalier from the Polonia, Prince Wilhelm for Saxonia with his quote unquote Gundam, and I don't even remember what it is for Roosevelt. That's no joke. I think it is the exoskeleton version of someone, but I may be wrong. They also have their mech. Each one have a mech hero, and each one have a infantry slash pet class. They all have their own special pets, being the twin wolves for Saxonia, the bear for Polonia, and the tiger for Roosevelt. Why? Nobody fucking tell me. Now, in gameplay wise, is exactly that. The game seems to be balanced like to an extreme that almost make it a little bit boring. And again, it's kind of not great. Second, the game also has buildings, of course. You have your barracks to get your infantry. You have your HQ to get your heroes, and if you're playing skirmish, you get your reserves too. And you have workshop for the max. Each building except for the headquarters have has two upgrades, and that's that. Besides, of course, defensive buildings. There is bunkers. Bunkers come in three levels. Nothing. Uh, have machine gun. Not have machine gun. To be more honest, is anti-infantry weapon and explosive weapon. That is the three levels of a bunker. It doesn't. Again, it doesn't put a flavor. Yes, each bunker may have their flavor weapon. For example, the Saxonia utilized the slug thrower instead of a machine gun. But again, it's just a change of flavor, but the function is the same. Another thing is bunkers also cost the pop cap. And besides this, you have sandbags, barbed wire, and mines. Mines also cost population cap. Yes, they are smart mines. You put them on the ground when a heavy weapon, when heavy armor comes around, an armor unit comes around, the mine will pop out the ground, track the thing, and blow up. I will say that I wish we had something to stop Max, like the iron things that we have on Company of Heroes, and then we did have the normal mines, because normal mines are fun. Mining foods are fucking great. But sadly, we don't have. Yes, comparisons to Company of Heroes will be made, And I just don't know. It's a little bit too low to be compared to it because Company of Heroes still has a little bit, especially one, still have ways to differentiate the Allies from the Americans to the British, even the Oberkommand to the normal Nazis, and the Nazis to the Allies. So it's interesting because you have those differences. Here I see more or less the difference is in the flavor only, not more or less in mechanic. And as I said, the campaign never felt like it always felt there was building up to something big. And yes, story wise, we almost have, but gameplay wise, the only time we use something different is during the Polonia campaign. The first, like, it's not very far, and it's there for those 2 or 3 missions and never appear anymore. And after that, we don't do anything else. The only most different thing is during the campaign, sometimes we may utilize heroes from different factions. We may play with those, but besides that, there's not much. Now, I will have to say, for a game that said that they would be single player first, I think this overbalancing, and especially, like, I'm okay if the overbalance was translate only for the multiplayer, for the skirmish or the challenge or whatever, but they bring a little bit of a more crazy shit to do on the single player, because more or less the objectives are not very different. It's almost like point A to point B, and you have to destroy enemy base at the end of point B, or barely one or twice defend a place on the map. Those are more or less what you have. And by God, the game has a couple of stealth missions. They're not fun. They are really kind of boring. The game is not like built around the uh that stealth mechanic. Interesting enough, there is only one character that is more or less built around stealth, and there is moments then you don't use that character for the stealth mission. So yeah. Now, let me finish the mechanic saying what I already said. This game is overly balanced on the single player front, and I don't know if that works on the multiplayer. I really don't. I don't know if there is any like unit composition and is 200 miles better. So I think this overbalance that was translated to the single player was a detriment for the gameplay itself. Now, I will talk about the single player campaign. And I will tell in a very short while because, again, it is a little bit disappointing. So, if you don't want to hear about the single player campaign, spoiler warning here. My verdict for the gameplay is I don't recommend Harvest Iron. Now, let's go for the single player campaign. 3, 2, 1. You have been warning. Holy shit, the campaign is not great. Again, the campaign disappointed me too. First, it pulls that bullshit thing of, oh, we are here and now we're gonna start a fight. Cut sequel baiting. And it worst because it introduced the only time that really introduced a faction, the factory, that does look like it has different things. And because it doesn't allow the player to control it or do anything with it, it feels fucking flat. Like the moment it seems like the game was building to that moment, the moment that it will take control of the factory and have like a little bit of a campaign here. And since that doesn't happen, the build up it's for nothing. It's a lot of build up for fuck all of a payoff. If you watch any movie, anything, you will get every single one of the quote unquote reviews, the plot twists or everything. You're gonna notice everything like from miles away. There is no surprise. And like I said, story wise, they show you Rasputin and they say, oh, there is a big evil organization. Okay, now you told me there is Rasputin. There is the villain of the fucking story. I still believe in. There is no explanation, but I believe there is a plot hole in this game. Hear me out about that. During the first mission for the Roosevelt campaign, uh, the peace treaty is being attacked by revolutionary forces. It's heavily implied in the revolutionary forces are from Fenris. They are a terrorist attack or they are being manipulated by Fenris. But they are using the same technology that Tesla used. I saw someone said, "Oh, the thing is they already tried to infiltrate the factory, so they may got technology. If they got that amount of technology, or if they got enough technology, they could reverse engineer and reproduce those. Why they would try to do that again? I do believe the King's Art game wasn't capable of like having time probably to build up the Fenris faction, so they just throw the Tesla factory and they hope that Tesla would like people would forget about that. And let me tell people to suggest that oh Tesla was funding the revolution. That also doesn't make sense because Tesla would not go out of his way to destroy peace. His plan was to help bring peace. And more or less, he is a fucking isolationist. He isolated himself on the factory, so I doubted it was this, oh, he attacked. He is trying to bring the revolution to people. Again, that doesn't quite go that well. So, besides this plot hole, everyone is like the villains are cartoonish, and in the end, the story doesn't end. It's a fucking sequel bait, and I have to say, it doesn't bring any satisfaction. The end doesn't go anywhere. The thing is, there is a campaign. They promise there will be a new campaign being delivered in a while that is after, plus a big add-on. I gotta say, this big add-on is still bullshit in my opinion because people who kickstarted this game not gonna get this quote-unquote big add-on. So I will say this is bullshit. Now I'm gonna finish this review or this quick look at saying one thing. The game is a fucking great concept, but the execution this time was heavily flawed. The game didn't do enough. It's overbalanced for single player purpose. There is no like big thing. Even the boss fight at the end, it really drag it. It's just a giant follow the big giant monster, shoot it, wait like throw all the abilities that you have, wait him to the opening, waiting the glowing spot appears so you can shoot it again. It was more or less a boring fight. And there is a lot of slog campaign parts, so yeah. I'm really sad to say this, but I can't recommend Harvest Iron Harvest for anyone. If the developers fix this shit, if they do a second pass on the campaign, if they add something, because that's the thing. I see potential, but I don't see the potential going anywhere. That's my major problem with the game right now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my opinion on Iron Harvest. Yeah, almost 2 months later, but I can fully, wholeheartedly recommend this game. Sorry. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. This was the video. If you enjoyed, leave it a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. If you have anything to say, please leave a comment. And if you want to see what the hell is gonna be coming next on this mess, subscribe. And see you guys on the next episode.